XML. Some say it's the future of the web. Others say it's merely plumbing behind it. But it's already in use at refineries, hospitals, courtrooms, even in space. And while the average internet user may still know nothing of it, IT specialists and web designers who say the same may be dangerously out of touch. What is XML? How does it work? And what can it do for you? We'll find out.
Columbia, go with throttle up. Roger, Houston, go with throttle up. Roger, setting coordinates to 100.
XML stands for Extensible Markup Language. Like HTML, XML uses tags, basically words or letters in angle brackets, to add more information to a document. If you view the HTML source code behind a web page, you'll see that the tags indicate how the page should look. These tags, for instance, indicate that the word between them, oasis, should appear in boldface text. But XML has a different purpose. It doesn't define the look. It defines the content. That means that data, whether it be a birth date, a street address, or a zip code, is defined as such by its surrounding tags, which are written in plain human-readable text.
What XML allows you to do is to take a data object and encode it in text, letters that people can read, and ship it across the network, and have somebody else at the other end of the network receive it and decode it and get the same data object back. That's all there is to it.
XML is a way of making sure the meaning stays in the data until the last person has had to use it.
XML is already in use all over the web. Many of the most popular and visible websites, like Amazon.com, eBay, and AOL, are already using XML to transfer data behind the scenes.
The end user, of course, doesn't see the XML. The end user just sees the web pages that come out of this process. But the kind of flexibility and generality and efficiency that you get behind the scenes in that kind of website wouldn't be possible without deploying XML technology.
If you go on the internet looking for XML, that's a little bit like getting into your car and expecting to see the fuel moving through the engine. XML has that sort of role. It's part of the infrastructure rather than part of what you see. But be assured you're already using vast amounts of XML.
Because XML tags are written in plain English rather than in a proprietary binary code of ones and zeros, XML encoded documents can be read with any simple text editor. And XML's platform-independent data format enables documents to be read anywhere, on any computer, with any operating system.
XML does the same sort of thing for data as Java did for computer programs. Java technology opens up computer programming. It means you can have computer programs that run on any computer without you having to ask any questions first. Java makes your programs portable. XML makes your data portable.
This flexibility means that information encoded in XML potentially has a much longer lifespan.
Information is valuable stuff. The enterprise, the business enterprise of today, is built around information.
As co-author of the XML specification, Tim Bray understands the need for an open standard like XML.
How many people really believe they're going to be using the same word processor 5 years from now that they are today? Nobody. That's not how it works. But information lasts longer than that. In general, information lasts longer than computers do. And yet, we're taking the entire storehouse of intellectual capital and locking it up in fragile, proprietary, binary, short-lived vendors' word processor files. Well, this is just nuts. It's bad business.
Computer experts believe that XML is the answer to that problem.
XML helps with archivability there because it's human-readable text. So you're not going to need to pull out a specific software program to use it 50 or 100 years from now if you're going through the old census records and they're all in XML.
David Meganson is an independent computer consultant. He counsels clients about XML and sees its potential in helping businesses communicate.
I think business-to-business data exchange is one place where XML makes an awful lot of sense. When you read about big mergers, I mean multi-billion-dollar mergers that fail, you read the postmortems 3 or 4 years later, one of the most frequent reasons for failure is incompatible data systems. XML stepped into the breach and gave us the first step towards solving this problem.
When we return, we'll take a look at one XML initiative in B2B data exchange that's greasing the wheels of commerce in the petrochemical industry.
XML is the nirvana that everyone's been promising for years with EDI.
With manufacturing plants throughout the world, Ethel Corporation develops, tests, and manufactures lubricant and fuel additives for some of the world's largest motor oil producers. As Vice President of Product Supply at Ethel, Russell Gottwald oversees production from the purchase of raw materials to delivery of the final product.
A key objective of mine, a primary area of focus, is on-time delivery, quality delivery. The number one cause that we have right now on nonconformance is documentation. Documentation errors can occur very simply. For instance, if the customer calls in a purchase order, our customer service rep takes that phone call and keys in that order. Then we turn around and we fax that information to a logistics provider, a shipping firm, for instance. They take the fax, they key it in manually into their system. Then it goes from there into the government. So every time someone re-enters the same data, there's that opportunity for human error.
Human error that can be avoided with XML. Virtually across the street from Ethel's Richmond, Virginia headquarters is Envera Corporation, an XML-based internet clearinghouse for B2B transactions in the petrochemical industry.
Envera is really about solving all of your supply chain issues, your logistics, what we call deep ERP integration. As soon as you know you need a product, your suppliers know they need to produce a raw material and get it to you on time in order for you to produce that product.
At Ethel's flagship plant in Houston, Texas, raw materials are shipped in by train and stored here on these tracks until they're needed. One of Envera's promises is that it can help reduce the quantity of inventory kept on hand and the amount of time it sits unused.
By having the XML platform, we will be in touch all the way from the customer service rep who receives the order straight through to the loading dock. And therefore, we'll be able to impact our inventories tremendously. Our lead time performance will improve. Customers will be happier.
Before signing on as Vice President of Membership at Envera, Rich Chavala worked as Global Business Manager for Fuel Additives at Ethel. So he understands the frustration the company felt in trying to perform EDI, electronic data interchange.
EDI gave a lot of promise, but was unable to deliver what we believe XML and companies like Envera can deliver to companies today.
Envera provides total connectivity, connecting its 40-member companies over the internet with their supply chain members, customers, and third-party service providers like banks and shipping companies.
That's the first benefit, total connectivity. The second benefit is really adding speed and efficiency to your overall transaction. Unfortunately, it's not that easy when you make a sale in the chemical industry. There is anywhere from 12 to 16 different documents that have to transfer between our two companies after we make the sale. The material safety data sheet, the quality metrics, the shipping information, all the way down to the invoice. All of these sorts of things that today are done by telephones and faxes and snail mail can be done by the internet.
And that saves real money. Traditionally, the cost of processing those documents at Ethel has ranged anywhere from $50 to $230 per transaction. With Envera, that cost has fallen almost 80% to an average of $8 to $10 per transaction. And all of this is made possible thanks to XML.
XML is definitely the way to go. It's a universal language. E-business and XML go hand in hand.
In fact, the United Nations is promoting an international initiative called EBXML, or Electronic Business XML.
We're supporting this initiative because we believe that the products of the initiative will allow not only small and medium-sized enterprises to be involved in global trade, but also developing countries. We think it is very important that, given the enormous potential of XML, that all countries and all sizes of companies are involved in the project.
More information about EBXML can be found on xml.org. Here you can also find reference to the many hundreds of XML-based languages that are currently under development. Everything from Cold Fusion XML to Purchase Order XML.
Almost certainly in the industry that you're involved with, there will be people at work who are defining an XML vocabulary for the data that you tend to pass around. If there's not people doing that, that's another huge opportunity for you to go now to xml.org and propose a vocabulary for your industry.
And many companies are doing just that. Kaiser Permanente, the largest non-profit HMO in the United States, is leading the charge to incorporate XML into healthcare. Dr. Bob Dolan is a hospital-based internist, but he spends 2/3 of his time working on information technology.
What a blend, I'm telling you. Sometimes I go to these standards meetings and you're trying to build consensus, and what a relief to just come back and just be a doctor sometimes, I tell you.
Kaiser Permanente is using XML in a number of ways. It's already made its clinical practice guidelines available to doctors in XML, and it's now working on incorporating XML into clinical notes. Clinical notes are those documents like a progress report or a discharge summary that a doctor may dictate into a patient's record. The hope is that by encoding these in XML, hospital computers will be better able to understand the contents.
And the more the computer can understand what's in a clinical note, the more we've enabled automatic decision support. So that the computer can look into my note and say, hey, you're prescribing penicillin. Don't you know that penicillin, this patient's allergic to penicillin?
The future of healthcare will definitely be influenced by XML.
Paul Byron is an XML business analyst with Kaiser Permanente. He believes that in addition to providing automatic decision support for doctors, XML will also help to safeguard patient records.
When you start thinking about encoding patient data in electronic form, the longevity of the data becomes very important. Having the data stored in a text format is going to be one of the most important things about XML for healthcare.
And of course, one goal of XML in any industry is to make information portable. That means doctors will have more access to medical records when they most need them, and this could potentially save lives.
They will have access to that information and can make the clinical decisions based on a more accurate record of the patient's background. That will have a significant impact, and XML will be largely involved in that.
And XML is proving to have a significant impact on other industries as well. When we return, we'll find out how New Mexico, the news industry, and NASA are all using XML. New Mexico boasts one of the most technologically savvy courts in the country. From video monitors in the courtroom to electronic filing of court documents,
Please rise.
New Mexico has been leading the charge to combine cutting-edge technology with even-handed justice. Still, like every other court in the nation, the Federal Court of New Mexico is virtually a prisoner to paperwork.
Half the time spent on a paper document is stapling it, destapling it, punching holes in it, restapling it, filing it, taking it out, copying it, restapling it, manhandling that document. And with electronic filing, anyone who has any need to see that document has instant access to it.
As an assistant U.S. attorney with the District of New Mexico, John Zavitz may be dealing with 40 or 50 cases at any one time. Juggling that many cases, he's made good use of the electronic filing system.
It may encourage longer working hours because you can file 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But it is, a very good tool to have, especially since I travel once or twice a month out of state. I can access and file things from wherever I am.
Hello. Can I file this, please?
Despite the technological savvy of attorneys like John Zavitz, 4 years into the electronic filing program, only 20% of documents submitted to the court were being filed electronically.
Thank you very much.
Part of the problem was that recruiting attorneys, training them, and providing technical support was both time-consuming and cost-prohibitive.
We'd known all along that we were going to have vendor support, that we were going to need some help. You can handle 50, but you can't handle 5,000 attorneys very easily.
So Rich Himes and Mitch Elfers decided to incorporate XML into the electronic filing system. By using a standard data format, they hope to encourage outside vendors to create their own versions of the electronic court filing interface. Attorneys could then buy these value-added services, and the vendor would be obligated to provide technical support. As long as the information came back to the court encoded in XML, everyone was happy.
What XML is going to do is it's going to turbocharge electronic filing. Because there are a lot of tools available, because it's an open standard, it'll make it more widely available. The market will open up. That will result in more court filings, just by a tremendous amount.
From justice to journalism, XML is just about everywhere. Wavo Corporation is a publicly traded company that moves news stories, photos, and video over the internet.
Our principal application is to help people who build websites add ever-changing so-called fresh or sticky content to their websites. Sticky means you want to come back often. You see the story, you say, that's interesting, I want to come back to the site. Wavo's mission is to make the information available in a standardized form, and we've chosen XML as the vehicle to do that. Then find a way to transmit that information simply, easily, effectively, so they can deploy it, put it on their site, and give their end users access to it.
XML is a critical part of this whole process because it allows Wavo's computers to automatically tag stories as they come through and immediately send them along to the appropriate websites.
We need to write computer programs because we need to do this in the fraction of an eye blink. We need to have news come in, get consistently classified, and get shipped out. XML was the answer to our dreams. We needed an open, extensible, documented, well understood protocol for presenting information that was supported by software so that we could take every publisher's information and faithfully represent it in a single format. XML lets me do that precisely.
Wavo's XML-based product is called Media Express, and it's in use today on over 300 websites, ranging from internal corporate sites to large general interest portals.
We're currently running between $3 and $4 million of annual revenue on just selling XML news on top of our regular news revenue base. Many people today say that XML is a promise. It hasn't made anybody any money. I'm living proof that's absolutely false.
If you think making money is a great motivator for using XML, imagine what the promise of a new world could inspire. When we return, we'll follow XML to the final frontier. XML is indeed out of this world, or will soon be. NASA is building SOFIA, the Stratospheric Observatory for Infrared Astronomy, a reconditioned 747 built to hold a 2.5-meter telescope. SOFIA will look into other galaxies from the stratosphere.
What we want to do is to look at star formation regions, for instance. Discovery of all of these new solar systems, of course, begs the question about life in the universe, particularly if you think that life has to be planetary-based. SOFIA will help in that quest.
Bob Lowenstein is working with computer engineers at NASA to build an infrared camera for SOFIA, a camera that will be controlled using XML. NASA began developing an XML-based language 2 years ago in hopes of more quickly modifying the huge number of astronomical instruments it maintains, literally throughout the galaxy. Thus was born Astronomical Instrument Markup Language, or AIML. AIML was developed in part by Troy Ames, a computer engineer at NASA.
They are always upgrading instruments. They're adding new components, particularly in a test environment. So the environment is very dynamic, and if you're always making these changes, there's always a time that you have to go back and change the software. And with AIML, that time is very short.
Traditionally, when an instrument's hardware changed, the software controlling it had to be rewritten. With AIML, however, the only thing that needs to change is the XML description of the instrument. Thus, turnaround time can be reduced from months to a matter of days.
Advantages are both in time savings, which translates into money savings, and into capabilities. We can provide much higher level of capabilities in this environment than you could before.
Every time you answer a question in astronomy, you get more questions. And the more you know you don't know. And the more curious you are to keep finding out the answers. And that's what this is all about.
Of course, there are many other applications for XML that will more directly impact the average consumer. For example, XML should make web searches faster.
The way that search engines work is monumentally stupid. Suppose we think of a library. The way that search engines work is they essentially go to each book, they read all the words on every page of the book, and they try and guess what the book was about, and then they read your query and try and guess what your query was about, and they try and match those up. Well, do real libraries work that way? Of course not. A real library has a catalog. Well, the web doesn't have any. Clearly, for the web to become a better, faster, more efficient search vehicle, we need catalogs. And XML is a blindingly obvious data format to use for those catalogs.
You should see this on a hotshot machine.
In fact, Antarctica, Tim Bray's software company, has recently rolled out a website called map.net, where you can find exactly the kind of directory he's talking about. Using XML, map.net has categorized the World Wide Web into 300,000 separate subjects and presented them in the form of a geographical map and a three-dimensional cityscape.
The application that I'm working on, the mapping the web application, would be really, really prohibitively expensive and difficult without XML.
Map.net illustrates one of XML's most cutting-edge features, its ability to display multiple languages.
Modern software systems typically have to be designed in such a way that they operate in multiple languages. And since these computer systems have to exchange messages all over the place, it's clearly the case that the messages have to be encoded in multiple languages, and XML makes that easy and straightforward.
XML itself may be a straightforward technology, but anyone who's studied it knows that it can quickly become complex with the addition of style sheets and other peripheral technologies.
With XML, there's plenty of complexity behind the scenes. There are things like DTDs that describe what tags are going to be used in a vocabulary. There are style sheets that help computers to work out how to take a piece of data and turn it into HTML. But most users, when they get started with XML, will only use a very limited set of those things.
One thing I'd like to stress is that you don't have to read all the standards to understand XML. It's a very short specification. There's lots of software that supports it. All the other specs are just things that people have thought of doing with XML.
And companies are thinking of new applications all the time. A visit to any software vendor's website will illustrate that.
It's simply hard to envision an interesting computer application built for today's enterprise that doesn't need XML. And in fact, I think pretty well every software vendor has recognized that.
So despite the fact that XML itself is a simple concept, you're likely to hear a lot more about it over the next few years.
XML is about keeping the meaning in the data. And that means that XML will be used anywhere there's data. And that means everywhere.
Whether you're an IT specialist or simply a window shopper on the web, XML is in your future. Because the future of the web is XML.